My name's Stone Davis. I'm a junior here at USC. I'm in the mechanical engineering program. The main premise of my platform is just making sure that students here have a voice on campus. And while I don't mean to say that we're underrepresented, I just know that I don't mean to say that we're underrepresented, but I know that the last 2 years that I was here, if you walked up to me on any given day and was like, hey, what's the Senate doing? Or if you walked up to, I feel a good number of students said, hey, what's student government up to? 9 times out of 10, they probably have no idea. And I think it's really key that the students here stay informed, as it's not my government if I get elected. It's not, momentum candidate campaign's government. It's the students' government. It's not about our goals. It's about the student body's goals and accomplishing what every student wants to accomplish here while they're here in Columbia. I've had a lot of students come up to me, especially in the engineering school, and say like, hey man, like, Swearingen's nice and everything, but the 300 main buildings, like, they don't really keep it that clean. Like, there's spider webs and stuff up in the ceiling. Like, can we do something about that? Or, hey, there's nowhere to park. Like, I'm stuck, like, circling my building before class. If I don't have a garage parking pass, is there any way, like, you could look at working on more parking on campus? And just, I think it's really key that we listen to what students have on their mind, because if we don't, then we have no idea what the student body really wants.
Okay. So everybody else that we've talked to has also talked about getting students more involved. I have 2 questions.
Mm-hmm.
How is your idea different from everyone else's idea? How's your platform different? And 2, how are you going to get students more involved?
I consider myself a pretty technologically inclined person. So when I had the idea of, how do we get students involved, the first thing that came to my mind was, I don't know if anybody's ever used like the Google Surveys option. It takes 5 minutes to create one of those, and it can serve as a rolling Dropbox that resets like every week. Somebody says, hey man, we should really clean up this part of campus, or this garage has like oil or something everywhere. Like, just send that in. Student government will look at it. Maybe if it's a big enough issue that we'll even get something in the Senate to work on that. And then, if I was elected, I would love to be able to have like a newsletter that goes out, once a week, once every 2 weeks, something like that. That's just sent out to every student. And, I've had the criticism of, students might not read it. A lot of people just get the emails from the university and say, oh, well, just mark that as read, so it'll go away on my phone, At least that information is there for them to access if they want to. If the drive for them isn't there to get, informed or to have an opinion, then that's their choice. But if a student does want to be informed, like I did the last 2 years, then the information's just not there unless they're involved in student government directly.
In your platform, you mentioned cutting unnecessary spending within student government. Can you describe what exactly that means and what things you'd be cutting?
By exactly cutting unnecessary spending, I just mean in terms of controlling what we spend more on. Kind of similar to what Merritt talked about during the debate. I just want to make sure that we have a solid system in place so that everyone knows where money is going, money is being tracked, we know how we're applying for money. It's not going to be another scenario like the administration before this one where we've spent ourselves in a hole and we have no idea where the money went.
So how would you being in place, you mentioned that Merritt is really running on this as well, so what would you do in addition to what he's planning on doing?
I'd be really open to working with Merritt as he's running unopposed, so if I did get a position, I would be working with him. Be really open to working with him on, setting up if it did take a completely new application system for either student org funds or, athletic club funds or whatever it would be. I'd be really open to setting up just a completely new system with him, having it be every little transaction tracked, every application tracked, so that we know where everything is going, so that we have tracks on everything, so that we know exactly how much we're spending, and we don't have, if an organization accidentally applied twice, we'll know if that happened, so that we don't give out more money than we absolutely have to, because as everyone knows here, as a college student, I'm sure money isn't something you can just throw around.
So what's an example of some unnecessary spending that's going on?
I would think unnecessary spending might be, I can't speak of an exact club right now, but I've heard some clubs speak in the past that, we got way more than we applied for, or, some clubs say, man, we didn't get half of what we applied for. So,
If I gave you a list, would you give me an example?
I can try my best to. I've talked to so many clubs this week. Yeah.
And that's basically like last semester is the first page.
Okay. Yeah. Like, I know I'm actually a part of the DECA chapter here on campus, and you can see we were allocated 2,000. We only spent 1,800. So, you know, we have a regional competition every semester. We have, you know, several fundraising events. If we only spent, you know, and that is a good percent of our money, but if we were given an extra $130, that could have gone to another club.
Like unspent money on here actually does go back to student government. So like the allocated money that isn't spent returns to the SG funding. So like what you're just saying that they should allocate less.
Yeah, just, you know, if they're going to allocate to a club, make sure that that club has it specifically detailed, you know. And I understand there are certain things that come up or clubs have different ideas through the year, but at least have them say, you know, this is what we want this amount of money for, this is what this one amount of money for, you know, and then maybe even if they say, you know, we might have extra planned events, you know, $100 or $200 for that, at least just have that tracked down and tallied so that we don't over allocate. And then if a club is like, oh, we wanted this amount, but we only got this amount because these other clubs asked for an amount that they didn't end up using.
So this is a question that we've asked other candidates as well, and that I asked everyone last year. Since turnout for SG elections is so low, and since so many people on campus don't know what SG does, as you said earlier, what's the incentive to vote? Like, not why should we vote for you, but why should people vote at all?
People should vote because, as I said before, it's not my government, it's not the Momentum Campaign's government, it's not Ty's government. If we were to be elected, it's the students' government. It's, do you care what your elected leaders are doing on your campus? If you're just here to go to class and to not be involved in the university, then, you know, I suppose you don't care. But if you want to have any say at all in, you know, what comes to the campus, what, you know, renovation projects are done, you know, what student projects are done, you know, Cockstock was something that came out of the last administration. If you want to have a say in that at all, you should vote.
So other than Cockstock, can you like point to anything over the last year that student government has done that's had like a direct impact on students?
I would say that, oh man, I'm going blank right now. You know, Cockstock was a very good example. You know, I know Michael's had several things that come. I'm just drawing a blank right now. If you ask me another time, I could tell you. But
you mentioned parking and like reform of finances. Can you give us some other examples of like how you would expand existing SU initiatives or new things that you're interested in starting?
Yeah, I know that a lot of the senators actually came up and talked to me after the debate the other night and showed me, you know, the Senate started talking about this. We haven't really put anything in place yet. It's like the parking thing. I had actually the governor or the senator from the engineering school come up to me and tell me that, and I was like, oh, cool. Like I didn't even know that. And you know, that parking initiative is something that I do think would be a big deal. Another one that I know that they have been like the senators have told me they've started talking about is Wi-Fi in the football stadium. The idea I actually had for that was for I don't know if you guys have seen like the little 4G like LTE boxes that like Verizon or AT&T sells. You know, why not open that up to a scholarship opportunity, or why not open that up to, you know, a sponsorship university or a sponsorship opportunity for the university? Maybe have someone like Verizon or AT&T come in, and you know, if it's a big enough sponsorship for them, big enough, you know, public eye, I would think a full stadium at Williams-Brice would be. You know, maybe they'll end up doing that for free, and maybe they'll even open up a scholarship or something like that every year for students.
So about parking, like what would a specific idea that you would have to like improve parking, even just around the engineering school?
Yeah.
What would you do?
Of course, Columbia is a very developed city. There's not a, you know, it'd be really hard to find new land for a parking garage, and I've heard people say this. You know, even if it's, you know, just one more student lot somewhere, especially towards that end of campus, because your only real options are, you know, Bates or the one near Colonial Life, and if you don't get one of those, or even if you do get a pass for one of those, you're not guaranteed a spot. And I know, you know, the business school is right near the one at Colonial Life, but a lot of our students aren't anywhere near those two parking lots. You know, if you're up on the north side of campus at Gambrell or LeConte, you have to walk upwards of half a mile And then if you're at the engineering school, you have to trek up and down up the hill. So, we need to figure out a place, and I'm not an expert in building codes or anything like that, but we need to figure out a place where at least if a student is going to have to commute to campus, because, we can't all live on campus. A student is going to commute to campus, they need to be able to have, you need to not have to worry about being late to your class or, oh man, I forgot to bring my coins for the meter, or you need to be able to figure out something that will allow our students to get to class, because that's ultimately what they come to this university for.
So an expense like a parking garage is probably going to be something that you'll need board approval for.
Parking garage money, none of that can come out of anything with tuition. That's why parking rates are so high, because it all is to be funded by bonds that are sold. So there's actually very limited money that could be taken from anywhere to build new garages. So how exactly would you influence that then? Because that's a state law, actually.
Yeah, and like I said during the debate, of course you would have to work with state legislator and the board of trustees and the entire university and the city of Columbia for building codes and all those things. And I understand that this is a massive undertaking. Like I said, I'm not an expert personally in building codes or, board of trustees action or anything like that, but by being president, that would put me in a position to show that the students on our campus want this. If it's something that is going to take 5 to 10 years to do, then at least I've set that in motion. At least I've let the students' voices be heard.
Are you familiar with anyone who is an expert in building codes who would be willing to help?
I've actually, they are actually in Raleigh at the North Carolina Department of Transportation, but I have people that I could talk to about, hey, how would I go about setting this in option? How would I build this up as a proposal? I had an internship when I was, after my freshman year at the North Carolina Department of Transportation. I'm from North Carolina, by the way. And, this guy really took me under his wing. He said, here, this is what it means to be an engineer. This is how you make a proposal. This is how you do all this. Now, while it's been a couple of years since I've been around that, I would be, he told me, call me whenever, put your name on your resume. I feel like I could call him and just say, hey, what do you think about this? Could you look at a map of Columbia? Could you tell me where you think this could be done? So I feel like I do have someone who could help me in that department.
And so you were talking earlier about how you talked to senators and, they said, oh yeah, we've had these ideas too, we've pitched things. Have you had any past interaction with student government? Have you ever worked with them?
No, I've never had any past experience with student government.
And do you know any of the senators or how student government is set up?
I have a general idea of how it's set up from reading, of course, the codes and the Constitution and everything. I have spoke with a few senators in the past. I've been in the program with Jay the past couple of years. He's been a senator. He actually drew up a bill for the referendum. A few of the other senators I've met in passing. I'm not saying I'm best friends with them, but I consider them friends. So
you think you could work with them?
Oh, for sure. Everybody that I've met so far, whether it be Ty, Ross, people in the Momentum campaign, senators who are, unaligned, everyone has been overly nice. I don't consider myself a hard person to work with. I feel like I'm pretty approachable. I'm not going to shoot down anybody's idea. Please tell me your ideas.
Have you ever been to a meeting in Student Government Senate?
I have been to one, yes.
So why didn't you get involved with student government before now, and what changed or what drove you to run for president?
Yeah, the reason I didn't get involved with student government before now was that, I'll be honest, it may have just been, not paying attention on my part, but I just wasn't really sure how. I sent a couple emails before asking how I could get, and I never got an answer back from anyone. And I was like, okay, well, I guess, maybe this is a beginning of the school year thing. Maybe this is something I can't do until I'm a junior. I just really didn't know. And then, when I started looking it up, I was like, okay, well, I'm not seeing anything because I didn't know if it was a club thing. I didn't know if it was, I had to apply through someone. I just had no idea. So eventually, I got the email and I saw it on Facebook where it's like, hey, if you want to run for office, come to this. And I was like, okay, maybe I have to be run to be a senator or something. And then I went to the meeting and, Michael was up there talking, all the current administration was up there. And I was like, well, I'm a junior. I feel like I have some good ideas. I feel like there are certain things just being more open to the students that would help the student government. I'm a junior, I might as well take a stab at it.
So a couple of the answers that you've given, like that one,
Yeah.
Students don't know much about student government. Is that something that you would be interested in working on?
Oh, absolutely. That's actually one of the key things of my platform is just keeping students informed, because I've said it twice already, but it's not my government, it's you guys' government. It's the student body's government. It's all about accomplishing what our students want to get done while we're here. If we're not accomplishing our student body's goals, then what are we doing?
Yes, expanding on how you said that you didn't really know how to get involved in student government, you didn't know much about it, and you just you found it by doing that. What would you do to make the next person, to make it easier for someone else to find student government and want to get involved with these things?
Yeah, of course, an open survey, a newsletter is great and everything, but you've got to be seen. You can't, and the current administration's done an excellent job of that, but, we have to be seen at, freshman events. We have to you got to put the word out there. If you're a senator, you can't just, go to class. Just speak up a little bit. Say, hey, if anybody's interested in student government, this is what we're working on. If anybody has any ideas, let me know. Just, you got to be comfortable with being known by the student body, because if you're not, then, people walk around like I did for 2 years, say, I guess student government's a thing. I never see or hear anybody that's in it, so.
Pretty much like every candidate has touched upon parking, they've touched upon like student Wi-Fi, that kind of thing. So what sets you apart from all the other candidates?
As I've said already, I think what sets me apart is if you look at the Momentum campaign, very nice to me the whole time. They've been very welcoming, but, they're all aligned. It's almost as if they're all running for the same thing. And while that's great, you have to look at differences in opinion to really see how you're going to grow as a student government. Because if you're not looking at differences in opinion, then, that kind of thinks that you might limit ideas, or, well, we don't really like this, but we're going to vote this way because everyone else is voting this way. That's what sets me apart, is I feel like I'm more open to students' ideas. I feel like I'm more open to communicating with the student body. I feel like I'm more open to ideas in general.
I'll step up. So a large part of the role of student body president is being a spokesperson, advocate, setting the tone of the official response of the student body to events on campus. With that in mind, with recent events in Berkeley and California, if a speaker was coming to campus with a history of outing undocumented students, trans students, and other vulnerable groups, does their right to free speech give them a right to speak, even if it might endanger, physically or otherwise, students on campus?
While I never condone physical action at all, I'll just go ahead and say that. Physical action is not acceptable in any way. It's against the law. It's illegal. It should never happen. Of course, we can't control people that way. I do believe in protecting the rights given to us by the Constitution. I feel like free speech is a right. But I also believe in not intentionally hurting people, but I can't control everyone. I feel like if I was elected student body president, I would preach that, guys, we're one Carolina. That's the hashtag that's on all my banners, all my promotional material. Carolina won. It's not me. It's not anyone else that will get elected. It's us. It's one big Carolina family. We have to be welcoming. We have to just, accept each other. We can't just sit there and, not talk about things that are issues. We have to all accept one another for who we are.
So to clarify, would you be fine with this hypothetical person speaking on campus?
Personally, it's their right. I can't tell them, if they are invited to speak on campus, I'm not going to speak up and say, well, because this is what they're going to speak for, I can't, say they shouldn't speak here, because that's their Constitution given right. Would I support them, outing people and telling them that, that's not okay, what their personal choices are? No, but I can't say that they shouldn't be allowed to speak, because that's their constitutional right.
You also mentioned protecting students' rights on campus and off. So the off-campus part, what do you imagine that looking like?
Just taking care of students, while they're a USC student, just letting them know, it's kind of a hard question. Maintaining a student's rights off campus is if, we have students in Europe, or if we have students traveling abroad, just letting them know, you're still a USC student, we're still looking out for you, here's these opportunities, your voice is still being heard, even if you're 1,000 miles away from our campus, your voice is still being heard,
So concretely, that's, what would that look like? Actual policy?
Actual policy, that's something I would actually have to work on once I got in office. You know, I'm not an expert in, you know, travel, or I'm not an expert in, you know, I'm not a lawyer, but, you know, I want to make sure that our students are protected while they're off our campus.
Is there something that like drove you to include that in your platform?
Yeah, I just, like I said before, we're one family here at Carolina, and I would want the students to know that, you know, their school has their back while they're here, and while after they leave, after they graduate, after they go on to the next chapter in their lives, they're always going to be a Gamecock. So that's what drove me to feel that.
So can you think of a time when maybe that hasn't happened, like something that generated that idea that maybe we failed somebody and how we could do that better?
I personally cannot right off the top of my head, but you know, I know there has been examples of where our school has taken care of students in the past that I would want to continue, such as, you know, it might be a bad topic to pull up, but you know, Michael Parks' situation last year, you know, I've done my research on that, and you know, the school had his back. Everything got worked out because ultimately it wasn't true. So
So when you talk about protecting students, faculty, etc. abroad, the only recent example of that comes to my mind is the students from colleges throughout South Carolina who were unable to re-enter the United States during the travel ban earlier this year. And is that the sort of thing you're talking about, or no?
in a term, yes. You know, that's a very complicated situation that I don't feel like I have all the facts of that situation personally. You know, I've been very busy with my own campaign. I haven't had a lot of time to, you know, follow our current president's, you know, executive orders and things of that nature. But I feel like that's a very complicated situation. But in terms of protecting those students' rights, yes, I would be all for protecting those students' rights if they were not allowed to re-enter the country.